This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good morning all of you all. So today we are dealing about Rajesh door from So almost we are at the end of the microbiology topics. We are now dealing with one of the most major problem which we are facing, whole world is facing. Antibiotic resistance or antimicrobial resistance, it can be called. Antimicrobial means it may be antiviral, antiparasitic, any drug, whereas antibiotic resistance, that which we use against the bacteria. In fact, antibiotics are the one which we commonly use, and so resistant towards them is also very common. To combat all this, antimicrobial stewardship program came into picture. Not only antimicrobial stewardship, there is a great importance and given to the infective control practices. It is proved beyond doubt that simple hand washing can cure a lot of diseases and avoid post-operative complications. The infection control practices along with antimicrobial proper usage is the one which is most important at this point of time. Initially, when penicillin was discovered, sulfonamides were discovered, everybody were happy that we have won the battle with the microbes. But that happiness did not stay long because of misuse, overuse, and due to various other reasons. Antibiotic resistant bugs or superbugs have come into the picture as a result of all this. For example, best example will take MDR TB. Though it is difficult to treat MDR TB, drugs came into picture to treat the MDR TB. Bugs did not remain silent. There came XDR TB where we don't have drugs. Of course, recently there is one drug which is on trial. There is no guarantee that we can save the life of the people. So if we feel that we are smart enough, the bugs are also smart enough. So they are proving that they are more powerful. So we need to be careful. We need to protect our antibiotics. Then only we can protect our future generations. No means all of us will fall into the problems. So as a doctor, as a medical person, tomorrow you are the future of medicine. In these conditions, you should be very careful that you take the responsibility of the protecting your antibiotics. So these antimicrobial stewardship is one thing which can help us to prove to be effective. So with this background, I'll just go on why we have landed up into this drug resistance. Are we responsible? Are we only responsible, or the people responsible? In fact, I'll just give a clue that one, prescription of the drugs by doctors. Second, very rational use of antibiotics. Even not only doctor to be blamed at this point, because a patient at the moment he arrives at the doctor, he feels within a half an hour or 1 hour complete cure is expected from that one point. Apart from that, now various animals, poultry, cows, everything we are using various drugs. That itself is increasing the resistance. Misuse of drugs, because a patient prefers to go to a pharmacist or a pharmaceutical shop to take drugs when compared to going to a doctor, because he might ask for a list of drugs, whereas a pharmacist who is sitting in a pharmacy shop might ask hardly 1 or 2 drugs. He takes 1 or 2 doses, leaves it, he is comfortable. He might be comfortable at that point, but next time if he want to use the drug, he may land up into resistance. With this background, I'll just move around what actually is an antibiotic, what is an antimicrobial. Antibiotic is an antimicrobial agent with the ability to kill or inhibit bacterial growth is one. Antimicrobial, an agent or substance derived from any source, microorganism, plants, animals, synthetic or semi-synthetic, that acts against any type of microorganism, that may be bacterial, that may be mycobacterial, that may be fungal, parasitic or viruses. This is the major difference. The antibiotic is only against the bacteria, whereas antimicrobial can be anything, which may be parasitic, antiparasitic, or anything. So all antimicrobials are antibiotics, but not all antibiotics are antimicrobials. So all antibiotics are antimicrobials, but not all antimicrobials are antibiotics. So if you see this discovery of antibiotics, you may ask why I have put up this at this point of time. You can see 1940, somewhere before that, you have sulfur drugs, then beta-lactam antibiotics, quinolones, everything came. But in between, from 1960 to 2000, you can see an innovation gap. So this innovation means discovery of antibiotics have been lessened. In fact, no antibiotics were discovered during that period. But resistance did not stop. In fact, same drugs were used again and again, misused also. That also led to the antibiotic resistance. You can see this is the discovery of penicillium. How penicillium was discovered. Penicillin was discovered. So what actually is antimicrobial stewardship program? Why this came into the picture? A coherent set of actions which promote the responsible use of antimicrobials. This definition can be applied to actions at the individual level, to the national and global level, across human health, animal health, and also across the environment. If we are preparing antibiotic stewardship, this program should be concerned with your contribution should be like that you contribute at the national level, global level, and also you protect your environment, also the health of yourself and also your colleagues. At the same time, the subordinates who are working with you, apart from that, your patients also. Why all are involved? Yes, everybody are involved because everybody are working in the same hospital environment. So why actually is this required? Is this so much required? Why there is so much talk about this antimicrobial stewardship programs? Why? First thing, as already told in your introduction part, growing challenges with the antimicrobial resistance. We are continuously giving resistant bugs. We are trying to identify new drugs. For that also, bug is becoming resistant. If the antimicrobial resistance is increasing not only at the local level, it's increasing at a global level. Whereas antimicrobial drug development is very slow. I've shown an innovation gap. Antimicrobial stewardship program is utmost important as it can optimize the antimicrobial use to prevent development of resistance and improve patient outcomes. So you can see the worldwide how bad is the antimicrobial resistance. Around 14,000 patients die of Clostridium difficile infection, that is antibiotic associated diarrhea. You all are well known that previously Clostridium difficile was not in the top, but now because of misuse of antibiotics, it is the major cause of antibiotic associated diarrhea. Apart from that, you can see 23,000 patients die each year as a result of antibiotic resistant infections in USA. Just think, this is just the data given officially. Unofficially, which is not been recorded, you never know that number will be more higher. In fact, this is not the recent one which I have put up. This is general to show you that antibiotic resistance is not in one place, it's increasing worldwide. You can see that around 4,80,000 people with the drug-resistant TB strains in 2013 worldwide. That's not a small number and not small thing to think about. Everybody were happy when there was a time when people used to die with TB because there were no drugs. But now we have such potent drugs around us, but still we have misused those drugs and we have landed into the drug resistance. So we need to be careful to avoid drug resistance. Second one, misuse and overuse of antimicrobials. We need to use the antimicrobials when they are required. We shouldn't overuse them. For simple cold, we shouldn't use, because for cold, you all know that antibiotics of no use. Of course, some serious cases, if they land up in pneumonia, if they feel there is secondary bacterial infections, we can go for antibiotic. But for every cold person, no need to give the antibiotics. Second one, a patient today comes to the doctor with such a serious, but 1 or 2 days he's okay with it, or in such cases, or he go to a pharmacy, for 2 days he takes the drugs, he does not take a complete course of 5 days or 7 days, he becomes non-compliant. In such cases also, initially he might be okay, but he may be harboring antibiotic resistant bacteria. So that also might be useful. So it may be dangerous, I mean to tell. So this antibiotic, this can lead to a longer hospital stay. You can see a longer hospital stay in the hospital. Medical cost will also increase. So drug resistance knows no age. It can affect anyone, anytime also. Okay. How this resistance occurs? See, initially primary infection is there. This is already over for you all. Just as a part of revision in this part, I'm just including primary infection is there. Antibiotic one, you have given some antibiotics, think of penicillin. Inadequate antibiotic treatment after 2 days of treatment, the patient stops the drug. So patient's poor compliance is there. Then they may land up into resistant infection. Bacteria cause of infection. Sorry. Cause of infections are eliminated, whereas resistant bacteria are developing. At this point, the same drug, for example, penicillin, might not be useful here. Here, you may require more higher version of the drugs, drug 2 or 3. Think of cephalosporins or carbapenems. Proliferation of bacteria causes diseases that are more serious and more difficult to treat. If you take for a higher version for carbapenems or, for example, zolids or anything, glycopeptides and all, they are more toxic effects, cholesterol and all. In such cases, if you are using, we need to see, monitor the liver function test, renal function test, and other parameters of the patient should be taken care of before we go on to the further treatment. In such cases, patient compliance, not only compliance, his body might not take up these drugs at that point, and if you give those dosages also, he may land up into different complications also. So from this, again, there may be two results. One is complete cure, it may be there, or again, therapeutic deadlock might be there. In some cases, bacteria become resistant to all treatments known to the date. In such cases, your treatment fails and your morbidity of the patient is unavoidable. In such cases, we should be very careful. So antibiotic resistance, you can see that may be due to different ways how the antibiotic resistance can spread from one antibiotic from one person to the other person. So we should be very careful when we are treating. So antibiotics don't work for everything. Antibiotics don't work for colds, flu, vomiting, most of the coughs, or most ear infections, diarrhea, cystitis and all. Usually they don't require any treatment. For example, you take Vibrio only. You doesn't require any treatment. Your supportive treatment is the one required. Antibiotics are required only in the terminal stages if the infection is very high. For example, parasitic diarrhea, if you take parasitic diarrhea, which may be by Cyclospora, Isospora, or Endemica histolytica, if you just go on dumping your antibiotics, it's of no use. We have to use an anti-parasitic drug or an anti-helminthic drug or anti-amoebic drug, which can be useful at that point of time. So antibiotics are needed. Yes, they are needed for severe infections, bacterial infections, including pneumonia, urinary tract infections, sexually transmitted, sepsis, meningococcal meningitis, and all. They are life-saving in some bacterial infections at the earliest. So as a clinician, it is your point of time you to decide whether antibiotics are required for your patient or not. Apart from that, widespread use of antimicrobials, that is also another point where we encounter a lot of problems. That only I was trying to tell you. They are used in the poultry, they are used for the other animals also. So increased this, people thought that there won't be any transfer of drug resistance from the animals to the humans, but that theory has been proved wrong. There is a complete evidence that the transfer of antibiotic resistance from the animals to the humans is there. So as a result of which there will be increased mortality and increased morbidity, and some of these we may not be able to treat also. So how antibiotics resistance spreads? This is one thing which I was trying to tell. Animals, you can see here, fertilizer or water containing animal feces and drug resistant bacteria is used on the crops. Initially, you can see drug resistant bacteria can remain on the meat when not handled or cooked properly. The bacteria can spread to the humans. This is one way. Drug-resistant bacteria in the animal feces can remain on the crops. From that also that can spread. From here it can spread to the humans. From the humans, you can see here, John stays at home and in the general community spreads the bacteria. Patient here also resistant bacteria spread to the patients from surfaces within the healthcare facility. From there, the germs directly spread to the other people, or they can spread to his community, his friends, his relatives. Everybody can spread. So John get antibiotics and develops resistant bacteria in his system. Animals get antibiotics and develop resistant bacteria. He is in contact with the other animals. From that also he can spread. So this is interchangeable. It can spread from humans to animals, animals to humans. Anything can be possible. So that we should be careful. So not only we should protect ourselves, we should also protect our crops and also our animals. We even for the crops, we shouldn't use more of fertilizers. So only green farming is the one which is encouraged at this point of time, because fertilizers also all the chemical substances. These chemical substances also at some point of time they may interact with our body and they can lead to a number of diseases. Not only that, resistance also might increase among the bacteria. So poor antimicrobial research, as I've already told, see, you can see it up to 1970s, in between 1970s somewhere, the research, I don't tell its research has been stopped. I can just tell that there is no new drugs which have been identified at that point of time. Again, you can see 2002, in between there, again, from 2010, there is a gap. So this resistance among bacteria is increasing, but the drugs which have been identified are very less. So antimicrobial research also should be promoted more and more. More funds should be given, more people should be encouraged. Even the young generation should be given more time to spend for the research out and to avoid the drug resistance. So what actually is all about this antimicrobial stewardship program? It's an organizational or system-wide healthcare strategy to promote appropriate use of antimicrobials through the implementation of evidence-based intervention. So today we are speaking about evidence-based intervention. In fact, in the older days, evidence was not that required. A clinician just suspects TB. If he feels that the patient is suffering from TB, he can go. But today, further, most of the diseases, TB, HIV, and all, is evidence-based. You require a laboratory evidence. Without a laboratory evidence, he cannot go for the treatment. In that point of time, he can also be sued for that case. In spite, you may ask for some of the cases like TB, meningitis, and all, most of the tests comes out negative. In that case, a clinician can supplement himself, telling that he has given a microbiology, pathology report, everything, radiological reports, everything he has been provided. But in spite of all that, he still feels that patient is suffering from TB, and in that cases, he can start with the TB drugs. Or else, this is a world we are in the evidence-based medicine. So laboratory report and radiological report, whatever it is a must. That is confirmatory report. Radiology reports most of the times are not confirmatory. So confirmatory report usually is required to start some of the or treat most of the diseases. So what actually, in simple words, if I need to speak about antimicrobial stewardship, is right patient, right drug, right dose, right route, and right time. And that can be done only with a person who has studied medicine, not with everyone. So nowadays, quacks are practicing. Each and every person is practicing medicine. That is most pathetic situation which we are facing in this world. Because, and in fact, some of the higher authorities, in fact, we had a news that NMC is encouraging each and every person to take up medicine. Either lab technicians, everybody will be given authority to treat the patient. That should be discouraged, because future will be very bad if we are going into this world. So what actually, in simple words, cycle of bacterial disease management: diagnose a bacterial disease. Without diagnosis, try to avoid. Consider non-antibiotic alternative to prevent, control, or treat. For example, diarrheal diseases, judicious use of antimicrobial drugs when they are needed. Yes, if there is a septicemia, bacteremia, and crude microbial meningitis, bacterial meningitis or severe TB case, then please use drugs to treat that judiciously and a proper course, because they might be that might be life saving for the patient. Apart from that, it also avoids the other patients to become sick. Re-evaluation of the need of antimicrobial use. Before when you're sitting in a OP, please think and rethink whether this antibiotic and this dosage is really required for my patient. Is he really needs that? You please think at that level. Am I doing good to him? Am I doing good to the environment and to the community? Think in each and every point you need to think, then only we can be useful. It's the responsibility of each and every drug. So in other words, simple way, of course, this will be in proper way. I'll just put up. In another way, you need to educate yourself. You need to educate your colleagues, your subordinates, the necessary for a proper antimicrobial use and sensitize with the activities. Apart from that, compliance with the departmental antimicrobial policy. I'll tell you how it is. We need to have an antimicrobial policy for each and every hospital, and even for a small nursing home we are working with. Compliance is very much required. Apart from compliance, we need to have a restriction on the antimicrobial use, how much duration you are using, whether the patient compliance is good, what is your choice. See that you don't use the higher antibiotics which have more of the side effects. Apart from that, less appropriate use of antimicrobials, less prophylactic therapy, go for more of. If you start with the prophylactic treatment for 1 or 2 days, once you get a culture report, go for a proper treatment. Appropriate choice of indication, dose, route and duration of antimicrobials, preferable for the oral antibiotics when compared to the IV or injectables. Okay, if you have started with the injectables, if the patient is very serious at that point of time, when patient condition is okay, then go for the de-escalation of therapy, that is from the oral to the from the injectable to the oral, or dose optimization, all that is required. You start up with yourself and you encourage your subordinates, colleagues, everyone, so that we go for a better world. So core elements, not only this, what are the other core elements which can he is prescribing appropriate antibiotic and adequate dosage, using shortest duration of antibiotics based on the evidence. See again, evidence-based medicine. Reassessing treatment when culture results are available. So initially you started with a prophylactic treatment. Once a proper report is there, go for a proper antibiotic. Supporting surveillance of antimicrobial resistance and hospital-acquired infections and monitoring of antibiotic consumption. Educating your staff, supporting an interdisciplinary approach, enhancing infection prevention and control, controlling the source of infection, prescribing antibiotics when they are truly needed, prescribing appropriate antibiotics with adequate dosage. All these are the ones which are required. How can this be done? So I have spoken about so much that we need to do that, these, but that should be done in a proper way, and all of us should have a proper set of rules to follow. How this implementation occurs? This implementation should occur at a local level, at national level, global level, so that we go with a proper one. At a local level only, if you think, this process can be successful only if we have a proper administrative support. Without the administration support, nothing is possible. Then after we have an administrative, again I'll tell you, in administrative support what all is required: leadership, who should be a leader, everything. Set up an antimicrobial stewardship team. So there should be one set of people to who take the proper decision, who give up guidelines, who are the senior persons, who see whether the things are going in a proper way or not. So that is called as antimicrobial stewardship team. Apart from that, infrastructural support is the most required, especially if you are going for the culture reports and all. Apart from the conventional culture technique, we need to go for the automatic culture techniques, especially for the blood. For example, if you need for blood culture and all, where the conventional techniques isolation rate is less when compared to the automation techniques. In such cases, we need to have infrastructural support. Apart from that, framing of antimicrobial policy, and implementation of antimicrobial strategies. All these are the ones which have to go in a proper way so that everything is in the set. So administrative support, how? Little bit detailed about the previous slide. Administrative support, I would like to tell that should start from a leader. Leadership should be there. One leader should be given, appointed by the higher authorities. That leader should have a commitment, dedication, necessary human, financial, and informational technology sources. Means he should be supported by all ways so that he makes this program a success. Whole of the responsibility, dedication should be on him side so that whole of the team goes in a proper way. If the team is going in a wrong way, he is the person to be one who guides them in the proper way. Accountability, appointing a single leader responsible for the program outcomes. Drug expertise, appointing a single pharmacist leader responsible for working to improve the antibiotic use. Action, implementation of evidence-based intervention and antibiotic use, monitoring of antibiotic prescribing and resistant patterns that can be done by antibiotics and by the microbiology reports, and summing up of all the reports, reporting, regular reporting information on antibiotic usage and resistance to doctors, nurses, and relevant staff. His team should come and report to him. That should be whole of this is a teamwork, not a one person who can guide. He should take the suggestions from the all the teams so that finally he can go with it. Educating clinicians about resistance and optimal prescribing. So antimicrobial stewardship strategy should come into the picture. He need to frame up an antimicrobial stewardship team. That team usually consists of, though other people can be there, the major people who should be there are infection disease physician. He should be the one. So apart from that, a pharmacist with infection control training, clinical microbiologists, anyhow microbiologists will always be trained in the infection control, so no need for the training. Information system specialist should be there. Without the LIS system, that is information, that LIS system is one. Now everything is going in a software. How many patients have been admitted? What is the morbidity? What is the mortality? How many patients have died in that day? How many patients have died of infection? How many days? What are the death rates in the pediatric? Everything will be there noted in the HIS LIS system. So he is a must for that. Information system specialist, infection control professional. He is also a microbiologist. So one microbiologist can act in a two ways, but because the workload might be high, so they can appoint two people. Hospital epidemiologist, last but not the least, he is a very important person because for the prevention control suggestions and all, he is also required. So all these are the main core team members. Apart from that, many other people, infection control, nurse, everything, even an attender and the head of the fourth class workers, everyone is required. Of course, these are the core members with a core leader. Core leader usually might be a microbiologist or a pharmacologist, or sometimes they may also go for infection disease specialist. Anyone can be there. So under that leadership, the team will work, will take a decision, and that decisions will be given to their sub groups, and they will go and implement. This is not only the work. After implementation, is it has been really implemented at the grassroots level? Monitoring is very required. Without that monitoring, without that feedback, whole of your effect is waste. That responsibility is again on the team. So again, I would like to stress the teamwork is very important. So infrastructure support, as already told, that is very important. Support from the microbiology lab. So we need to have a proper technical persons in the microbiology who are capable enough to identify the organisms, not only conventionally but also automation. The automation support and all should be given by the administrative staff. Bactech, Malditech, Vitech and all, many things are there, but all of them are costly. But if you need to keep your hospital premises free of antibiotic resistance and proper and help in the globally, we need to have this support. Apart from this, biomarkers, procalcitonin, CRP, here we are doing procalcitonin also is we are having, but they are costly affairs, so support from the administration is very much necessary. Molecular tests is also required. Till now, molecular labs, because they are costlier, they were not considered, but if you think though the pandemic has got much of the bad things, one good thing about pandemic is that microbiology labs have been uplifted. Now we have a molecular lab and it has been compulsory according to the guidelines NMC or MCI. Without a microbiology lab, no MBBS course admissions will be there. So that's one thing which have improved with this pandemic. Maybe in future we may have a more higher version of the test so that we can support everyone. Emergency lab is one required. This emergency lab might be, you may set up in the wards or you may go out for the test, so that simpler test will be done, so that final test will be conducted in the major lab. HIS have told that is lab information system is the requirement. Apart from that, manpower availability. So missions can do their work. Without manpower, it's just impossible to complete our activity. So framing antimicrobial policy is another one which is very important. Every hospital should frame their own antimicrobial policy, which now are in place only for the higher institute like AIIMS, JIPMER, CMC Vellore and all. They have, in fact, when I had a training there, when I went for the training in CMC Vellore, I was very happy to see that they have their own booklet in the antimicrobial policy. Of course, these things are still lagging in hospitals like us, though we have policies which are not completely followed also. That's not required, that's not maybe in the future that might be dangerous. So it's the duty of each and every person to have their antibiotic policy. Not only have that on the paper, we need to follow them and implement them. Pocket handbook, system syndrome wise indications for antimicrobial choice and their dosage should be prepared by the AMS team. Policy should be compliant to standard national and international antimicrobial guidelines. Local antibiogram pattern should be followed. Why local? See, resistance pattern might be high in some other hospital. It may be low in my hospital. How can I get statistics from my hospital? From my microbiology lab, from my microbiology test. So you need to correlate things and compare and decide according to that. But that should be according to the standards. So local antimicrobiome pattern, I have to check whether in my hospital, what are the resistance pattern for the Klebsiella? What is the resistance factor for Escherichia? I mean, if I have tested for 100 patients, so 20 people have tested resistance. So indicating 20%, that is too high. Only 2% is there. Yes, it is good. We need to keep up. We need to improve further. Common consensus between all the clinicians might be arrived. Yes, this is the most important thing, because to arrive this is quite difficult. That can be done only with the leader and antimicrobial stewardship team. These should sit together, because every clinician will have their own idea. They will have their own problem. They might not be compliant with our things. So unity and that thing is very important. How that, so these things I am telling, not only one, it's the teamwork. Whole of the hospital, if they join hands only, we can fight this antimicrobial resistance. So implementation, there are two types of implementation of antimicrobial strategies. One is front-end strategy, other is back-end strategy. Front-end strategy appears to be too attractive and more interesting, but frankly speaking, compliments from the clinicians will be very bad. Whereas back-end strategy, though it's time-consuming, labor-intensive, difficult to implement, and it might be very much tough for the antimicrobial stewardship team and others, but compliance and agreement from the clinicians will be very high. So front-end strategies, formulary restriction will be there. The team of doctors, antimicrobial stewardship team only, will decide which are restricted antimicrobials, semi-restricted and unrestricted antimicrobials, which is already according to the global and international, national and international standards. So restricted antimicrobials, pharmacy supply greater than 1 day requires prior approval from the team. Whereas colistin and carbapenem, I've just given examples of two drugs. Pharmacy supply of greater than 3 days requires prior approval from the AMC team, that is vancomycin. Pharmacy supply does not require AMC team approval, that is first and second generation cephalosporin and azithromycin. So this looks very attractive at the level. Pharmacists should be very careful. We have given all the rules, but clinicians will never be happy. It's like we are tying up their hands. So they most of the time they are unhappy. Their compliance will not be good, and they don't cooperate with us. Without their cooperation, our program cannot be successful. So these advantages sounds attractive and impact is immediate, but disadvantage creates a lot of confusion, impacts clinician freedom. Second one, availability of antimicrobial stewardship consultants all the time. 24 hours they may not be available. Sometimes in the night emergencies might be there after your working hours. Then they have to take, the clinicians should take a decision immediately. Without taking a decision, there might be life risk to the patients also. If at that time you need to contact your antimicrobial stewardship team and he is not responding, that time lag might be dangerous and to the patient also. We may lose the patient. Apart from that, your clinician also will be very unhappy because already he is under pressure to save a patient, but he also might not be happy. So to avoid this, most of the hospitals go for a back-end strategy. It is, though initial time we may find some difficulties, later on we'll have a good result with it. Done by more prospective audit and feedback, more effective to implement. Team, usually antimicrobial team goes for the stewardship rounds. They discuss with the clinical team about the complaints about antimicrobial policy. So already one policy is there. They go and discuss each and every day with the clinicians whether they are following that properly. How many, if they have treated 10 patients, in the 10 patients, for how many patients did they follow the policy? For if millimeter 6 I have followed, other 4 I have not followed. Why you have not followed? What is the reason for your non-compliance? Justification about the non-compliance. Why? If you really have not been compliant to this, why are there? What reasons made you to become non-compliant? So that's the way they go and speak. They are being good to the clinicians. They interact with the clinicians. That interaction also will be a very friendly manner, so that tomorrow they can justify, and today they may do a mistake, tomorrow they might come out with a good one. Advantages: more widely practiced, more easily accepted by the clinicians, provides higher opportunity for educating and training of healthcare professionals, impact delayed but sustainable. Disadvantages is labor intensive, intensive because each and every day the team of doctors should go interact, and that all I mean get feedback. You need to comply, you need to sum up all that. From that you need to come up. It is quite little bit more this one, but finally the results might be improving. So antimicrobial stewardship. So this is before treatment and after treatment. This is one: de-escalation therapy or duration of therapy, audit reports and all, education guidelines. So this is a passive way. This is an active way. These formulated restrictions are the prospective audit with the feedback and all. Why and all, that also one way. Educate and train them. Initially, most of the doctors will not be compliant and they may be aggressive with you all. So educate them, train them, go in a friendly manner. Today, one doctor might join you, one clinician. Maybe at the end of year, 20-30 doctors, maybe in the future that will be there. Because this, I'm not speaking, I have just, when I attended training programs in these institutes, they told me that initially they also had a lot of problems. Most of the doctors were non-compliant, they were aggressive, they didn't feel comfortable with these restrictions, but now in fact they are very most comfortable, and they in fact by themselves go with these meetings and suggestions and complaints and all. Is very good. So maybe we can start somewhere in our hospital. It's not yet completely started, though we have some policies which are not yet followed. Maybe there is a nevertheless we can start at any point of time. Educate and train requires continuous education, training, motivation. See, we need to be back to school at any point of time. Health doctors are students at all the time. We cannot be reluctant that I have learned everything in my PG, I have learned everything in my MBBS classes, I don't want to study. No, nothing is reluctant like that. Day to day we need to study. Assessment of healthcare providers, motivation is must for this behavior. So that's I was thinking motivation. Most of the things now, when you, in fact, now if we start, most of the people what they tell is, this is very, this is not a simple thing. It's not. It's just not possible at this point of time. But with time, most of the people will join us. So monitoring is most required as our rate or compliance of the antimicrobial stewardship. This can be done by different methods. You can see the adherence indicator. One is adherence indicator. Second one is antimicrobial usage outcome indicator. That is DDD means daily dosage outcome, daily outcome of treatment. Antimicrobial outcome indicator, that is by surveillance. Clinical outcome indicators, morbidity and mortality. Financial outcome indicators, cost per patient per day. All this one which can add this. How these are, how previous slide, to add up to this previous slide, clinically how you can say that days of therapy. So how many days the patient has stayed clinically, how many days the patient has been admitted from the day one. If the admission rate is less, the patient have been discharged within 1 or 2 days. So the days of therapy is less and hospital stay is less, so you have a good outcome. If the hospital stay is from months or sometimes 2-3 months and all, that your antibiotic usage also will change. So length of stay in the hospital, clinical cure or failure rate, in spite of that stay also, whether the patient have improved or not. Readmission within 30 days. If they come back within 30 days, that is readmission. Resistant rates, infection related mortalities, where they have Clostridium difficile infection mortality. Process, whether dose of optimization, adherence to hospital specific guidelines, appropriate de-escalation therapy, streamlining have been done or not, appropriateness of therapy, cultures before antibiotics, have they given the cultures before the antibiotic usage. See, some of the clinicians, for example, Sunday, how some holidays have come, today we cannot use the sample. So what we should do? Immediately take a sample, preserve it in the refrigerator. Next day you can process that sample. But taking that lab is closed as an option, you just start the antibiotic and next day you give the culture sample for culture. That report might not be reliable, especially if you are starting with this infection control process. Apart from that, humanistic adverse drug reactions should be avoided. Careful usage of drugs should be there. If by chance the drugs adverse drug reactions have occurred, please keep a note of the drugs, why it has occurred. Is it a human error or it has occurred because the patient is not that's not a drug, it's not due to negligence, due to some other factors. All those things should be kept in mind and everything should be documented so that finally we can sum up of things for come to a conclusion what is the reason. So antimicrobial usage, how long they have used, define daily dose, how much BD dose, OD dose, or it may be TID, whatever it is. Hospital-wide antimicrobial expenditures, relative consumption, rate of intravenous antimicrobial usage, non-formulary agents should be avoided. So if everything is taken, then finally we can sum up things. How? Decreased, if we follow this antimicrobial usage to the proper one, that will decrease the hospital cost, that will decrease the antimicrobial cost and patient cost. Patient outcomes, decreased length of stay will be there, infection related readmissions will be less because hospital acquired infections should be avoided. Antimicrobial usage, decreased total use, antibiotic stays, daily defined dose, restricted antimicrobial use, all together. So value is equal to outcomes by cost. You can say this is outcomes by cost. That will help you to find a good control over your antimicrobial stewardship. So you can see this team antimicrobial review form. This is the form. You can see this is an example I've just put up. So acute care team antibiotics. So in the ICU they have given this form. So for example, they have used some colistin, which is a reserve drug. For day one, they have used how many doses, whether it is IV, oral, or any other way. How many doses they have given, what is the milligrams, to what extent drug dosage. So how many days they have given, are they going only with the specific treatment. Along with that, they have any other antibiotics. Why they have started this antibiotic? Have they taken a microbiology culture report? Have they given any other support? You can see here, if antibiotics can be narrowed, will you change to the narrow spectrum today? Can antibiotics be narrowed based on the microbiological data or other clinical data? Can you do it, or is it already done? So these are the questions which have been framed accordingly locally, and they have to answer to this, so that finally the team will come to a conclusion whether they have really whether the ICU people or who treating clinician have really properly done justice to the patient or not. So only antibiotic restriction is not used. We need to increase the infection control practices. Then only we can have a good control. So proper infection control practices, universal precautions should be followed by everybody thinking that each and every patient is having the highly infectious blood-borne diseases like HIV or hepatitis, and from each and every patient try to sanitize your hands or wash your hands. That itself can save the lives and avoid infection transferring from one patient to the other patient. So especially not only doctors, especially the nursing staff and the other staff should also be careful to avoid this hospital infection control. Have good hold over the hospital infection control. So this, take antibiotics as prescribed, complete the entire course. Do not save antibiotics for future use. Do not take antibiotics for viral infections. Do not use someone else's antibiotics. Most of the people are doing this, taking the antibiotics, and once the doctor have prescribed, we have gone to the doctor for one disease once, and next whenever they have the cold, whenever they have the fever, same antibiotics will be prescribed without any age gap or anything. Everything will be followed same. So that should be avoided. So antibiotic resistance is not coming, it's there right now. The discovery of penicillin was so important that it was awarded a Nobel Prize. Antibiotics are losing their own power. Antibiotic resistance knows no geographical bounds. So today it may be in India, tomorrow it may be in UK, third day it may be in the US. For example, you take corona only, your SARS-CoV infection, no bounds for the virus. Similarly, no bounds for these bugs. Antibiotics won't make you cold or flu better. So don't ask for antibiotics when you don't really require them. Don't have that phobia that if you take antibiotics only, you will be fine. So there is a lot of change required in our life, not only from the patients, it also required from the pharmacists, from the clinicians, and every healthcare worker who should be the front line to change themselves, so that they can educate the public also, so that we have a good hold of these antibiotics and we preserve these antibiotics for future. So this is one. Let us not be pessimist. Let us be optimist and take every opportunity in our life to make a change. That change should be in a greater way. Thank you.